He's an engineer by profession. He's working at Intel. He has been a district speech contestant for 3 times and has been placed on 3rd place once. Ninad comes from a very humble background of a small town, Solapur in India. Frequently being bullied at school for a squint in his eye, he chose to remain in a shell throughout his childhood and well into his adulthood. When he was in 7th grade, his aunt asked his mother, "Is this guy me?" He only found his voice at the age of 34 when he accidentally landed into this strange little club with strange people who clap for everything, called Star Search Toastmasters. He realized after a few weeks here that actually he feels at home on stage. Not only he can talk to folks, he is quite good at motivating them, and especially the kids and the parents. Through his speaking, he has helped 400 families with all kinds of motivational and demotivational techniques. I would love to know the second part though. Okay. For screen and sugar. Okay, now I get it. A mute found his voice so much so that he can and has gone and talked to Intel's charismatic CEO, Pat Gelsinger, more than once. Here today, Ninad is going to talk about his journey through Toastmasters and how transformative it has been to his life and how you can use the power of Toastmasters to search the star within you as Star Search. So let's welcome today's featured speaker, Ninad Pimparkar, and his speech analyst from mute to motivational speaker, from a mute to motivational speaker, Ninad Pimparkar.
Thank you, Dinesh, for that wonderful introduction. I still remember sitting in those chairs. It was 2013 when I accidentally landed up joining this club. I don't know, or I can't recall what spurred me to come here. Probably it was Google, probably it was fate, but I literally found my voice right here on this stage. I still remember that day. I was in 7th grade and I used to talk nothing. Not even to my parents, not even to my sister. I was, for all practical purposes, a mute. And do you know, does the fish know that it is in the water? Does the fish know that it is in the water?
Maybe. Yes.
Fish, for fish, the water is default. It is what it is. So it really doesn't know unless it's taken out. So for me, that day was a moment when my aunt took me out of water. She asked in front of me to my mother, "Is this guy mute?" She was literally genuinely concerned. I spoke so little. And that was a moment of reckoning. I still remember that day as if it's yesterday. And that continued till about 10 years ago. At that time I was about 33, 34, sitting in these chairs. I came here maybe 3 or 4 times and then slowly started participating, taking a few roles here and there, then taking first speech. I remember my first speech. My hands were trembling, my knees were shaking, my stomach had butterflies, my throat was dry. I somehow made it here. This was the very same altar. I held on to it for dear life so that I don't forget and I don't fall, and I actually forgot my name. If you know, the first speech in the Toastmaster is icebreaker. You are supposed to tell about yourself. Easy, right? What do you tell about yourself if you forgot your name? It's the first thing. But after 2 speeches, something clicked, something changed. And those members who have been here, after that you might remember, now I started signing up. Again and again, they had to make a rule specifically for me that you can't sign more than once in 2 weeks. So you have to leave a gap of one. Otherwise I'm like, okay, I'm gonna speak. And that since then I've been speaking non-stop. This club might be 100 speeches, probably. Other clubs, I've been to about 50 different clubs so far, and still I believe, maybe it's my bias, maybe it's because my alma mater, maybe it's something else, but I think this is the best club that I've ever been to. So I started taking part in contests. This is the other thing of Toastmaster. One thing is you come here, you speak, you take feedback and you go home. The other thing in Toastmaster is contests, and I fell in love with contests. It's jarring experience, to say the least. The pressure is high. The adrenaline is pumping. You feel as if you are drowning. But after you speak in a contest, you are on a different plane. So I urge all of you, members and guests, take part in contests. It's a different level altogether. The first time I took part in a contest, I remember I came third out of 3 people. I still remember Albert Moe, born that year. He spoke so well. Is he still around? He shows up sometimes?
Not sure.
He's around, but not this year.
He was in there last year.
Sorry?
He was competing last year. He beat me.
Oh yeah, okay. In your club?
No, for the division contest. Actually, not sure.
Okay. And that time I thought, this guy, I gotta beat him next time. And as soon as that contest got over, I started preparing. I started preparing for the next contest, and next contest I did beat him. And after that, it was cat and mouse. Me, him. One particularly I remember, I beat him he beat me in the club contest, and our rule is, if you are beaten, you're done. You cannot go to the next level. But that time, this area had like 3 clubs sending, so they said, okay, 2 people from every club. So we went, I also went. He beat me again at area contest. But fortunately, the division had only 3 areas, so 2 people went, I also went. Division, I knew, this is it. And I did beat him. And that's the time I went to district as well. So competing with Albert was one of my fondest memories over here. Coming back to personal life, in my school I was bullied. I'm sure many of you connect with that feeling. I was the youngest in school. My dad pushed me through, even though I was not eligible, back then in India in the 80s. Dads used to be able to do that. My dad was like, hit the target earlier. Well, throughout school, people hit me because of that. I was the smallest, I was the youngest, and I have a squint in my eyes. It's not visible, but this eye does not go this side. It's the birth defect. It's called 6 cerebral palsy, whatever. There's something. And it was absolutely visible when I was young. Now what's going to happen? A small child who's smaller than everybody else. See, you are 7-year-old and you are with 8-year-old. That's a percentage difference of about 12-13%. That's a big difference. Your size difference matters that time. So then that pushed me into a shell. And it kept pushing me into a shell and a shell and a shell. And I believe later my post-analysis, that's what caused me to be the mute. It took this club to break that shell. It took 25 years to break that shell. If you feel you are in such a shell, come here. Join this club. Now, the guest was sharing her story. I had a parallel story. I am very passionate about teaching, mentoring kids. I don't teach them subject matter. That's very boring for me. What I teach them is how to motivate yourself, how to demotivate yourself for screen and sugar, mind hacks, speed reading, memory techniques. I've taught about 400 kids, and I have taught even their parents how to do it. Even parents who had difficulty at work, I used to teach them my techniques and they used to excel. Now that only happened because the shell was gone. If I was in a shell, well, I had amazing ideas here, as you were saying, great ideas here, but they don't come out. What's the problem? What's the point? So far, I've stopped doing that motivational speaking now for kids. I do it on the side. I used to do it professionally. But then I started looking for a different project, different way in which I can apply all the soft skills I had gathered throughout years, these motivational soft skills. And I was looking for how do I put them into my job. I changed my job a couple of years ago. Before that, I was in global foundries. I don't think you would have heard about that. You might have heard of AMD. So I joined AMD about 2008. That's my first job, and it spun off into global foundries, where I was for 13 years. And 2 years ago, I joined Intel. Intel was a culture shock. Who knows? Who has worked in Intel here? Who worked in semiconductor industry? So Intel was a big culture shock. Global Foundries was a big room. You can go anywhere, talk to anybody, ask anything, and nobody will say, I can't tell you this. Get permission, access. Intel, 10 times bigger room, but everything is locked and blocked. And I decided to do something about that culture. Intel is going through a transformation at this point. Intel was the biggest bully of semiconductors in 2008. Since then they have fallen, now trying to get back. And I decided to apply all the soft skills that I learned through my participation on training of kids and parents to Intel. I figured out these are the few issues that I'm going to tackle. And because of my broken shell, or coming out of the shell, so to speak, I was able to talk to this guy. Oh, I forgot that one picture. Looks like I forgot one picture. So I went and talked to Intel's CEO. So I was sitting in an all-hands meeting, and as soon as the meeting was over, I ran to meet him, to greet him. I thought there will be 10 people lining up, or 100 people lining up to meet him, such a star. Nobody, just one, just me. I got to talk to him for 5-6 minutes. I took my picture and put that as my profile picture in my work. And now every time, any meeting I go to, they're like, what's Pat doing here? So because of the boldness that this club gave me, because of the coming out of shell that this club gave me, I was able to go and talk. I've met a few more celebrities. Anybody remember this?
Yeah. Steve Wozniak.
Steve Wozniak. So he was just loitering in the garden, and my friends, this guy looks like Sri Wozniak, and they sent me because they know I will go and talk, I don't care. So I go and went to talk and asked him, and my kids, my younger one took very high interest in his 4 little dogs, and the guy was really sporty, said a lot about his dogs as well. And one time I went to, anybody can see the guy?
This is hard.
Huh?
Too hard to see.
Too hard to see. Pass it around. NVIDIA, Jensen. Yeah. So now the meeting big people, talking to big people, no problem because of this guy. Going back to my childhood, I keep on wondering, what if my dad had not pushed me through that 1 year? What if I was not the smallest kid in the class? What if I didn't have this squint in my eyes? There are lots of what ifs. We can't go and change the past. What we can do is take charge of our future. And I believe you can take charge of your future by joining Toastmasters, and particularly this class.